My name is Preston Pollard, professional speaker, skateboarder, life coach from Anchorage, Alaska. I've been working with youth now for over a decade. It is my passion to help people push out of their current circumstances and into their destiny. I've talked with successful people to get their story of how they got to where they are today to help you push forward. I'm just so excited to be here. Sitting next to me is a director, producer, and writer. He's done 22 films, Emmy winner. He's just awesome. Anthony Russo, thanks so much, man, for being here. This is awesome for you just to take some time with me, man.
I'm very happy to, Preston.
Well, how's everything? How you been?
I've been good. You know, my brother and I are here in Atlanta, busy making the next two Avengers movies, so it's an exciting time for us, and everything's good.
Awesome, because the last time I seen you, I think was a year ago. I met your son. I was teaching him how to skateboard. That was awesome. But I know that your story wasn't always, you know, the Captain America, Avengers. You know, when you first started, you were born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. What inspired you to become a filmmaker?
Great question. I think, my brother and I grew up, we're only a year apart, and we grew up big film fans. We loved movies, loved watching them on TV, going to the theater, big movies, small movies. We grew up not too far from a place called the Cleveland Cinematheque, which is a great art house cinema, and we got to see a lot of world cinema there that doesn't make it into the normal commercial theaters. And so we were basically film geeks. We didn't grow up filmmakers. We grew up in the 80s, and there were video cameras around, but we weren't messing around with cameras really too much as kids. I think as I got into my early 20s, it just, film felt like it spoke to me in a very powerful way, and I felt very drawn to it. And there was a big turning point that happened, because again, growing up in Cleveland, the movie business seems like a million miles away. But there was a guy named Robert Rodriguez who made a movie called El Mariachi. I don't know if you remember the film, but it was a small film that got distributed in theaters, but a really wonderful, exciting film. And it was he wrote a book about his experience of making the movie, and he said that he made it for $7,000. Wow. And that was like a light bulb went off for my brother and I, that you could make a movie for $7,000. And again, this is before all the sort of digital technology that we have today. This is back when you had to actually shoot on film. So that, I think, got the juices flowing, and my brother and I just started to read as much as we could about filmmaking. Again, being in Cleveland, there weren't a lot of resources, but there were a few people in town that knew something about it, and we would go seek them out and sort of grill them with questions. And eventually we got to the point where we felt like we could do it. We could start taking baby steps toward making a movie. We spent a lot of time writing a script. And then we, with that small community that we found there in Cleveland, we were able to start shooting something.
Wow! And I heard your first film called Pieces. Now you did something interesting to finance it. Tell everybody that's listening, what did you do, and also how that came about.
Well, Pieces. Look, at first, we basically financed that movie on credit cards, mostly. What happened was that movie took us a very long time to make. We started shooting it, and again, we were learning as we made it, so it was kind of like our film school, the process of making that film. I think it took us about 3 years to make that movie. And we were learning as we went. We got to a point in the process where it ended up taking us more than $7,000, a little bit more. But so we don't know if that, we always look at that as a myth that Rodriguez made the movie for $7,000.
Maybe it's possible.
We'll see. It got us to take the plunge though, so I'm happy that it was out there. But yeah, so we got to a point where we did run out of money, and we figured, look, we can either, as we were learning more about filmmaking, we're like, okay, we're at a point now where we either need to move to New York or LA and get jobs in the film business to continue learning about the business, or we need to go to film school. And then film school started making a lot of sense because there were student loans there. And so we applied and there was film equipment, filmmaking equipment, and editing equipment. So we ended up partway through the process of making the movie, applying to film school and getting into film school. And then we used student loans and basically film equipment at the film schools to finish the film, which was, so that's why it was kind of a long process.
So did you go into debt at all?
We did. We went into a lot of debt making that movie, and we carried that debt for a good 10 years.
Get out of here.
So,
and for me, what's inspiring is the fact that you took a leap of faith from that film, you placed that film into a film festival. After that film came out, a producer approached you, he loved what you're doing, and tell us a little bit about what he told you from that and what kind of happened after that.
Yeah, well, we got very lucky. When we were finished with Pieces, we started to make the festival circuit with it, and we got into a really great small festival called the Slam Dance Film Festival. It's held in Park City, Utah. It runs concurrently with the Sundance Film Festival. It's kind of like a small upstart rival of the Sundance Film Festival. And that year, when our movie was playing there, Steven Soderbergh, who is a great filmmaker, had a movie called Schizopolis that was opening the festival. And he happened to see our movie on a recommendation, and he called us about a week after the festival and said, "Hey, I really liked your movie, we should get together and talk." So we got together with him, and those conversations led to an offer from him to help us make another movie. We always feel very fortunate that Steven extended that offer to us, because there weren't a lot of people responding to Pieces. He was one of the very few people. Oh. And it just, it tells you, the movie was very arty. It was very uncommercial and out there. It was, Joe and I just exploring what excited us about film, and we were playing with the sort of weirdness of it all that really turned us on. And Steven, I think, Steven was doing something very similar with his movie Schizopolis. So I think we were both in the same place at the time. And he, thank God he offered, because it ended up being a really powerful road forward for us. I mean, it ended up being about 3 years later when he actually produced a movie for us. Okay. We went into a writing cycle at that point where we wrote about 3 scripts to figure out what movie we would make next. And it took us a little while to do that. But eventually Steven was in a position, because he was making a movie at the time called Ocean's 11. Oh. And he had formed a partnership with George Clooney, and they had a big overall deal at Warner Brothers, and they were able to help.
Well, I like how you just said George Clooney's name like nothing. He just had a little something with George. That's cool, man.
No, it's wow. Really strange coming up as filmmakers to start to sort of fall into circles of people that you admire and respect so much. So yeah.
That's great. And so after that, I heard as well, you did the pilot for Arrested Development, and as soon as you went out and filmed that, the executives called and they telling you it was a disaster and all this craziness, and so I wanted to know, and of course after that you ended up winning an Emmy for that. So I want you to tell the viewers, how did that experience shape your your definition of failure? Because maybe that kind of, to hear that from executives, oh, this is a disaster, you probably could have felt maybe like you did something wrong, but went to an Emmy, so
no, it's a big lesson. You really have to. That's one thing my brother and I have learned throughout our careers, is you really have to rely on your own instincts. Because you can't sort of try to guess what people want to see or expect, or you really have to just hone in on what excites you as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, and figure out how to do the best version of that. And if that ends up being something people appreciate and want to see, then great. And if not, maybe you should be doing something else with your life. You know? So we sort of look at it like that. But that with Arrested Development was an interesting scenario, because we were shooting that show in a very unconventional way for the time. At that point, no primetime television show, scripted show, had ever been shot on digital video. That was back when digital video was brand new and evolving. So we were shooting the show because we wanted to be very improvisational with the comedy on that show, and we wanted to let the actors have a lot of room to play and mess around, and so we didn't want to be wasting film while we were doing this. Film is expensive, so we thought we would use these cameras, even though the image quality wasn't as good at that time. It was okay for us on a creative level, because the whole premise of that show was that it was a mockumentary. So the fact that it was a little beat up looking, not quite perfect looking, actually helped sell the realism, the faked realism of the fact that it was actually happening. So I think what happened was, when they saw the dailies to the pilot. The dailies are the things that, you know, when you do a day of shooting, and that footage comes in, that's called dailies, and everyone will review it to see what got shot that day. And so the studio executives look at it, and they got very nervous because it was they're watching a take that's 3 minutes long, and there's like the camera's not on the actor, and there's people talking and weird things happening. They can't follow the story, and they don't understand that the way that we were shooting that show, we were only intending to use like 15 seconds of that 3 minute take.
Okay.
And that's the way we were building it, but it was confusing to them, and they panicked about it. But I think it's also another good lesson is that, you know, especially when you're working in a collaborative medium like filmmaking, where it requires a lot of people to make something, you need to be very communicative with your creative partners, whether they be financial partners or studio partners or creative partners, whoever they may be, because everybody needs to understand. You know, everybody's making this thing together, and everybody always needs to understand what it is and be able to tie into what it is. So it's very important to explain to people how you're working, what you're trying to achieve, how they can help you achieve what you're trying to achieve, what they need out of you in order for them to participate. You know, it's a very collaborative, communicative process.
Okay, wow, that's great. And after you went ahead and you got the Emmy, which was incredible, congratulations.
Thank you.
Then you ended up, you know, receiving a call. I guess there was, I think, about 10 directors are looking for to direct Captain America, and you were one of the people. You and your brother were the ones that got, you know, up for this. What was that like when you got that call? How did you feel?
Yeah, I mean, my brother and I, after we, you know, sort of started in indie filmmaking, and then we segued into television with Arrested Development. We had a long run in television where we made some other shows like Happy Endings and Community after that, and we really enjoyed it. But we were looking for an opportunity to segue back into features, which is kind of where we started. And yeah, out of the blue, we got a call from our agent that just said, oh, Marvel has a list of 10 directors that they want to talk to about the next Captain America movie, and you guys are on it. And which was, so, you know, it was very surprising because we hadn't lobbied for it, but we were big fans of what Marvel was doing. I remember when I saw the very first Iron Man movie, which that movie is the film that kicked off the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. I saw that movie and I was really in love with it. So the fact that they would sort of find us was really, really surprising and also exciting. And, you know, my brother and I grew up big comic fans, and we were, you know, it was a great opportunity for us. But then what happened was we went into a process where I love Marvel's process, is they have a very thoughtful process about how they choose filmmakers. And we basically began a several-month conversation with them that took about 4 meetings, where we would talk about the movie in greater and greater detail each meeting, and we would pitch them a more specific version of what we wanted to do with the film each time. And we developed a lot of materials. We did like a fake trailer where we took footage from other movies to give them an impression of the tone that we would go after with the film. We did a lot of what are called storyboards, where you draw out sequences in the movie in still frames. We rewrote certain scenes in the film to show them what, like, you know, a new idea or a new tone we might bring to the film. It was a very involved process. I think we spent about all of our time for 2 months, like, basically auditioning for the job. Wow. So thank God we ended up getting it. Yeah.
Incredible. So on your first day, you know, you get there, you and your brother, you're directing this huge film. You know, tell the people, if they don't know what a director does, you know, what was that like on your first day? What were you overseeing, and what were you doing on that first day?
Oh man, well look, it's a very long road to even to get to set on that first day. You know, especially movies like the Marvel movies, these big special effect movies that have a lot of action in them. You have to do months and months and months of preparation to even get to the point where you're able to turn on a camera. Those fight scenes that we do, the choreography for those scenes are rehearsed over months. We actually shoot those scenes many, many times before we even get to set and shoot them for real. Our stunt team will stage certain fight scenes and then shoot them with smaller cameras. And then edit those scenes together, and then we'll all review them together, and we'll keep refining it and reshooting it and refining it and reshooting it until we've got the fight to a place where we're like, oh yeah, this is it. Okay. And then at that point do we take it to set and actually shoot the scene.
Wow, so it's a process.
Yeah, it's a long process.
It's a long process. And with your career as well, it seems to me like you cultivated some awesome relationship, long-lasting relationships. How do you build relationships? Because a lot of people think it's about maybe being a taker or a user. How do you build these relationships where people trust you and they want to call you back for different jobs?
Well, early in our career, we learned a lot about how to conduct ourselves as filmmakers by watching Steven Soderbergh. And he had this philosophy early on. I remember him saying one time, you end up making the movies you're meant to make. And I think that, what he meant by that was you can't control the process completely. You have to acknowledge the fact that you don't control the process completely. And all you can do is bring the best energy you can to the table, and it'll end up finding the right home it's supposed to find. So I think that's the way we've always approached our work and working with others. We have a very open hand, and we're very, we're sort of driven by our excitement and our passion. So we bring that to the table, and if it ends up being something that somebody can use to, then it flows that way. And if not, it's sort of like go with God. Everybody's can sort of, move forward, with whatever we brought to the table, whether or not it worked out or not. So we try to, different people have different philosophies, and I don't know, I guess, you have to go with what works for you. But what works for us, and maybe because we're a team, we're able to do this a little easier, is that we don't hide a lot. We're able to really put it out there and just see what happens.
Great. And with being young, a lot of people, they view success differently. About maybe they got to have the bling bling, they got to have the whatever it is. And for you, you directors, man, y'all be chilling. Like y'all look like y'all don't even wear no gold chains, and y'all be doing, and it's awesome, man. And so, how would you personally define success in your own way, if you would?
That's a great question. I mean, well, it's interesting when you talk about directors. Directors have a lot of responsibility. You're dealing with you're at that sort of nexus point between what the movie is creatively and what the movie is financially. And so you have a lot of financial responsibility. You have that responsibility to your partners. You also have a lot of responsibility to your creative partners to make sure their work is protected and sort of given the proper space to sort of grow and evolve. So it's you have a lot of responsibilities as a director. So I think that gives you a certain, puts you in a specific place in life, But I think success is just, it's just finding out what what excites you and where your passions lie, and sort of what you can bring to the table to help make the world a better place, or make other people's lives better. It's just running at those opportunities in life to find a creative expression that you think is important to make, and then hopefully find a way for that to connect to other people. It's kind of the essence of what I do. So,
I like that, and it seems like, and you have that passion. I think a lot of people, that's what they're looking for. They're longing for, to do something that excites them, to be passionate about. And unfortunately, a lot of times people don't get that opportunity, or they say, I can't do it, or so many times they've been told no. And I'm sure you've been told no a lot of times too, but you were able to say, you know what, I'm gonna keep going regardless. And that's just awesome, man. You get me fired up. I'm serious.
That's cool. But that's why I think it's really important to find it, because it is hard, and you will hear those things that you're talking about. And I think it's very important to find a community in life that you feel supported by. It's like, and as you sort of, if it has to do with filmmaking, it's like, how do you find that specific sort of filmmaking community that will help you? I'm sure that you can relate to the idea of like finding a community that helps you sort of pursue your passions and build on what you think is important in life. And I think that's a big, it's like, while you can't, you need other people. You can't do everything alone. While it's very important to like do everything you can to make something happen just on an individual level, at the end of the day, you have to find others to connect to really build something.
Yeah, it reminds me of this quote that I heard. It goes, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Yeah, do you think that has helped you out in your career, in your field, of just knowing who to surround yourself with as well?
Yeah, we see very much so. I mean, we feel very lucky that we got involved in the Slam Dance Film Festival early on, because the whole premise of that film festival is that it is run by filmmakers. So oftentimes what happens after you show a film in that film festival, they will ask you to become a part of the film festival and program it for the following year or the following years, or be a judge or whatever. And so Joe and I got very involved with that festival. And I think we were programmers or judges for about 10 years. We're still involved with the festival, although not as much time. But that was an amazing community of filmmakers. You know, we had a lot of people who were trying to do the same things we were doing. They were great for resources when you needed something, needed a little help here or there, or just you needed some information, or just on an emotional level. It's like emotional support to one another. So, you know, having that community was really important. And then I think as we became more involved as professional filmmakers, you know, the Directors Guild became a very important resource for us as well. Because it's another organization of like-minded people who are all sort of working together in this business. And it's a very, I think it helps you work through a lot of your problems and the difficulties that you can encounter. So, I mean, you know, we've been lucky to be able to hook into some good filmmaking communities.
Definitely. And if you could go back, let's say, you know, to when you're 20 years old, and with the advice with the things that you have learned now, what advice would you tell your 20-year-old self if you could? You're still young, by the way.
I still need that. At 20, I think I probably would have just told myself to relax a little bit, you know, and to sort of let it happen. You know, I think maybe I spent a lot of time anguishing about, like, what if things don't work, or what the right road is. I had a lot of tension about that stuff because you're going into the unknown, and it's. But I think, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, look, you can look at the world two ways. It can be a big scary place, or it could be a big beautiful place.
That's good. You
know, and it's like, if you just sort of breathe and sort of focus on the things in life that are the opportunities in life that are out there, I think that you know, help you run at them, help you access them easier. You know, I think that's the important thing. Is just sort of really keep your eyes on the positive things.
And you know, like I said, when we first met, we talked. You were so down to earth. You were kind. I mean, what keeps you grounded, man? You're doing these massive films. I mean, the highest grossing film right now is, you know, Captain America: Civil War. I mean, y'all can go check out the numbers, but it's a lot of numbers. You guys did an incredible job. I know it's a whole team of people, but how do you stay grounded and still be pretty much, I say, on top?
Well, you know, look, here's the thing: is we love our work. That's why we do what we do, my brother and I. So I think that's what it is. Is just, you know, you just keep focused on the work, and that's the beautiful thing is it doesn't matter, because, you know, my brother and I have made everything. We've made very low budget indie movies. We've made TV. We've made cable television, network television, big movies, medium sized movies. You know, we've sort of done. We shoot commercials. You know, we've done. We've done about everything you could do with filmmaking that you can do, and at the end of the day, it's all the same. It doesn't matter how big the movie is. It's just you focusing on the work, what you're trying to say as a filmmaker, what you're bringing to the table as a craftsperson, you know, and just figuring out how to tell a story, whatever that story is. So it's strange because these movies are big and crazy, but it's really the same process we go through on the smallest things.
Awesome. Well, one more question. I know you got to run. You got a lot of work to do today.
No worries.
What can the fans expect for Avengers: Infinity War? Like, what can they expect, man? What's?
Well, these are special movies, and we're very excited to be able to make them. These movies, these next two Avenger movies, are intended to be the culmination of everything that's happened in the Marvel Cinematic Universe since the very first Iron Man film. So they're very ambitious in scope. You're going to see a lot of your favorite characters.
Good.
And you know, they're big. You know, in some ways they're going to be you know, the end to a lot of things that we've all been following in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and there'll also be new beginnings in these movies, and it'll be, I think, hopefully, it'll be a special experience for fans.
Awesome. Well, Anthony, thank you so much again for taking your time. And we are out of here. I'm your boy Preston. This is Anthony Russo. Make sure you find him, follow him on his journey, and make sure you live your life on purpose. Take care. Bye-bye.